What is shaken, Internet? This is Salts bringing you the How to Tank for Dummies Dark Animus LFR guide. Dark Animus, or the Golem boss, is the 9th boss in the Throne of Thunder raid instance, and the last boss for the 3rd quarter LFR instance named Halls of Flesh Shaper. Halls of the Flesh Shaper? Whatever. For those of you in queue or fighting trash, a quick synopsis. Kill everything. Kill the little ones first, the bigger ones next, and finally the boss. Don't stand in the Crimson Wakes, and when the Ring of Spheres appears around you, run through it very quickly, using cooldowns after that. Okay, let's start on the real guide for dummies. First up is trash. The trash is completely ignorable before this boss. I actually don't even remember what the trash is. You just go through, you kill some stuff, AoE. There's nothing to think about on this stuff at all. So don't worry about the trash on this part. So Dark Animus himself is less of a single boss and mostly just a bunch of ads. This fight is extremely simplified from normal raids, so it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to go ahead and talk about each of the different ads individually, but first the fight as a whole. So the fight mechanics sound more complex than they are, so bear with me. The fight begins with a bunch of little ads activating and starting to attack the raid. Each of these little ads has some resource which is called Anima. Anima? Probably Anima. For Anima, to be precise. Whenever any ad is killed, it immediately loses all of its Anima and transfers that Anima to the nearest ad, the nearest inactive ad that it doesn't have any Anima. Most ads, as soon as they get any Anima transferred to them, will activate, thus meaning if you kill any ads, generally more will respawn to replace them. Have no fear though, as the ads aren't limitless. There's something like 30 little guys, 4 or 6 big guys, 2 giant guys, and the boss. The strategy in LFR is really simple. You kill the little guys that spawn first, which will activate some of the big guys and more little guys, which you then kill, which will activate the giant guys and maybe the last of the little guys, which you then kill, which will activate the final giant guy and the boss if they haven't activated already, which you then kill. It's like, that's it. The boss will slowly drain Anima from any golems remaining once he activates, meaning that he'll eat all the Anima in the room eventually, leaving him as the only active enemy. The more Anima he gets, the more moves he does, but we'll talk about him in a bit. First up is the ads. The smallest Anima golems are very simple ads that just hit whoever has aggro on them. Their only ability of note is that they gain some attack speed and move speed when they're close to other small golems, but this is pretty much negligible for tanks in LFR. These guys should be piled up and AoE down. Next up are the large Anima golems. They do normal melee damage to their tank, but also spawn Crimson Wakes. I hate these things because they are so hard to see with all the other crap going on the screen. But all you really have to do is tank them and keep moving, trying to avoid these Crimson Wakes. If you have Deadly Boss mods or something like that, it'll tell you when you're standing in a Crimson Wake, so just keep moving if it's yelling at you. The Wakes will do massive damage to anyone standing in them, and they move around the room at a random raid member, so they fixate on a raid member and follow that member. So watch out if a melee person gets a Wake following them, because they'll probably just stand there and die on top of you and the rest of the melee groups. The rest of the melee raiders. Eventually the massive golems will get started up, and they seem to live forever. They do the same melee attacks to the tanks as the large ones, but have 2 distinct abilities. First is their Explosive Slam. It's a little AoE slam they do towards their target that does a decent amount of damage, but also makes future slams do bonus damage. This might require a tank swap if it gets really high, but you should just be avoiding this altogether if you can do it. If a massive golem is on you, when they stop to do a slam, just run away from them. Don't sidestep because they'll follow you, you have to run away from them. Their other move is Matter Swap. This is a silly move that does some damage based on percentage health. It's pretty complicated, but basically a healer will dispel this, and you'll either take a very small amount of damage or an average amount of damage. Even sillier is that you'll actually switch places with another raider. Don't worry, it doesn't reset your aggro or anything, but take a second to regain your bearings if you get jumped across the room. And that's pretty much it for the ads. So bunch up the little guys, avoid the red moving pools when the large ads are up, and avoid the ground slam when the massive guys are up. Now, one more idea. Try to start the fight pretty far towards the entrance of the room when you enter in the room and kill the last set of ads. Try to fight it on the stairs close to the entrance. This way the adds will come to you, get bunched up, and are really easy to tank. And more importantly, it likely won't activate the boss until most of the other adds are dead. It doesn't really matter if you activate the boss early, but it makes the fight cleaner if you kill all the adds first in waves, because then you don't have to deal with the slams and the wakes at the same time. The boss will eventually be activated and start running up to kill some brave adventurers. When that happens, one tank should grab him and the other should try to round up the remaining adds. I honestly think this fight could be a one tank fight with even halfway decent gear, but we'll see why that might be problematic in just a bit. So Dark Animus himself has quite a few moves. We'll start with the most tank-centric and then move on from there. Anima Ring is a move that the big guy, we'll just call him DA, Dark Animus, the big guy, DA, he does pretty often, and is directly for the tanks to deal with. As soon as he casts it, you'll be surrounded by glowing orbs. Touching any of these orbs gives you a debuff that increases all melee attack damage to you by 50% for 15 seconds. And it stacks, meaning if you touch 2 orbs, you take 100% bonus damage, 3 is 150% bonus damage, etc. It's very possible to just run out of the ring and only get 1 stack, but sometimes you'll get 2 or 3 doing this. If you get more than 1 stack, you'll definitely need a cooldown to keep you alive. Even 1 stack can hurt, so keep up that active mitigation. An alternate strategy, since you have 2 tanks, is to have the second tank either taunt as soon as the ring appears, or to take the spheres themselves. Taunting is the simplest, since the main tank can just taunt back after the debuff wears off. The ring is cast very frequently though, and there will likely be other adds that the other tank is tanking during this, so they might not be available to taunt. The longer the fight goes on though, eventually there will be no more adds, so then the off tank can taunt the boss when the ring shows up, or try to eat some of the spheres himself. Don't eat all the spheres, especially if you're still tanking adds, because at 500% bonus melee damage, you will die very quickly. Other than the ring, there really isn't much to worry about. So, just so you're aware, the ring will not be cast if Dark Animus has less than 10 anima, whatever, I can't even say it right, but it's very likely that he will already have this when he activates. So let's cover his other moves now. Okay, Siphon Animus, Siphon Anima? I'm not really sure if that's... whatever. Is a passive move that takes the anima from the other golems, basically filtering it all to the boss. Nothing you can do about this, so moving on. Touch of the Animus is a random DOT that the boss will keep placing on random people, and it persists through the rest of the fight. It's pretty infrequent at damage every 4 seconds, but it is something to watch once the tanks get it, which you will probably eventually get this. Anima Font makes one of the people with the touch move that we just talked about explode, dealing damage to people near them. If you can, try to spread out, but there's not too much concern over this damage, especially for you as a tank. Interrupting Jolt is actually an interesting little move that does a big chunk of damage to the entire raid, but more interestingly enough, it actually interrupts any spell casts and silences people for around 10 seconds if they're casting a spell. Tanks generally use instant cast spells, so it's not a big deal, but if you are using anything with a cast time, be sure not to be casting when the boss starts using Interrupting Jolt, or cancel that cast immediately so you don't get silenced for 10 seconds. The boss does have another move in normal that is removed in LFR, which completely changes the fight. Since this is an LFR guide, it doesn't really matter, but I do want to cover the move very briefly. Once the boss reaches 100 anima, he begins casting full power in normal and heroic mode. This basically does crazy amounts of damage to everyone in the raid every second, which equals a wipe. That means that in normal and heroic, you have to actually be careful in managing how much anima the boss gets. In LFR, however, he will never cast full power. Because of that, it really doesn't matter that the boss gets all the anima in the entire room, which is why you just kill all the adds as soon as you can. So that's Dark Animus. Pretty straightforward in LFR. Kill the little guys together, kill the large guys while avoiding the red pools, kill the massive guys while trying to avoid the ground pounds, and finally, kill the boss while either tank switching during the anima ring, or having the secondary tank eat up all the spheres. If neither of those happen, use them cooldowns. Hopefully you've enjoyed this guide for dummies. Please like, favorite, share, subscribe, and, as always, you keep it salty, Internet.